Holy moly, I am so tired of research. I have been researching micro EV companies for what I feel like is 5 weeks. This is TechPath. Welcome back. My name is Paul Barron, and today we're going to be jumping into the micro EV boom that is occurring. Now, we've had a chance to have on our network AYRO and Rod Keller. He talked to us a little bit about food delivery. We're going to have the guys over at Arcimoto come up and talk to us a little bit more. But I really wanted to kind of dive into whether or not these companies can be a real player in the EV market space. Now, the commercial applications are there. That's just, it just is. The cost of being able to put a micro EV on the road is just, in fact, cheaper to do. It is something that I think is going to take over the delivery space and maybe some of the utility space around all kinds of services, all the way from pool companies to lawn care, food delivery, you get it, janitorial. You can kind of understand where the potential fleet, especially light duty, could be going. If you look at the companies that are playing in this space, I'll start at the top, being AYRO. We've had their CEO on, as I mentioned. They could be a potential player here, I think, and they could get some major penetration if they can win the delivery space. Now, this is going to be very difficult for AYRO to kind of jump in and really kind of dominate, because there are some players that are coming into this area, and I think these companies have a very unique advantage on being able to really kind of up it one step. And the difference I mean is going to be the company that comes out in the small micro EV opportunities in terms of battery length, in terms of battery juice, being able to get over that 100 to 150 mile range. That could be a factor. Now, granted, these are not everyday use vehicles, even though some of these could be used for city commuters. So AYRO could definitely do this if their new technology for batteries advances them in terms of their battery capacity and being able to get that range up over 100 miles. If they can do that, then I think this starts to expand the use case for those products into other markets. And I do understand where some of these companies are going in terms of very targeted markets for use. But I believe there is a very good opportunity here to maybe even move this product into mainstream consumers. Now, the question will be, can it work? If you look at what GM has done with their energizing their China lineup with their electric micro car, this is something that's kind of cool, because the Wuling, if I remember correct, their mini EV basically costs about $5,000. All right, this has positioned their model there in China to essentially become a commuting tool. If that is the case, we're going to see companies that really start to move in this direction. If GM is successful in what's happening in China with this potential micro car going into the commuter spaces, that could be an opportunity. Now, I do believe that that's going to be an opportunity mostly in dense population areas. If you look at what's happening here in the US, maybe not as much, because the dense population may be starting to disseminate into kind of the suburbs, so you're going to need range. And that gets back to the whole battery technology. Now, another company that I'm watching very closely is, as I said, is Arcimoto. Arcimoto's recent acquisition of this new technology for essentially kind of, the engine itself, or the turning radiuses. It has that new tilting wheel that they purchased. I like what it is, and I like Arcimoto's theme. I do like the fact they've got Galley on their board now, which is, if you've done or watched a lot about in the EV space, you know that Hyperchange is, Galley's been kind of in the front of all of that. They've put him on the board. I think that helps them in terms of connecting to the millennial and maybe getting a very fresh set of ideas of looking and understanding what could happen in the micro EV space, especially around companies like Arcimoto, which is the three-wheel product. Much like AYRO and Arcimoto could go head-to-head here. The question is which one of those is going to take dominance, much like Tesla. That'll be interesting because, you've got AYRO, who I think has a very big advantage because of their proximity, being a Austin-based company right next door to Tesla and their new Gigafactory and all the infrastructure that's going to be needed to supply Tesla's Gigafactory. Holy moly, that could be another big advantage for those kinds of companies. But when you look at the list here, I want to run down this and make sure we've got the emphasis here on how many companies are out there in this micro EV space. It is huge. You've got Yogomo, Voya, Dojo, Chefing, I forget, Zarin, Apache, Green Wheel EV, the city car, electric vehicles. I mean, it just goes on, and the potential for this market could be huge. Again, full disclosure, the fact that we are getting away from these dense city centers really pushes a lot toward the fact that these guys have got to be able to get the batteries up in terms of range to be able to go to the consumer market. If they're going to stay in the delivery market or in some sort of utility market, maybe the 100-mile range works, and maybe that is the magic nirvana that everybody's going to be looking for. And I do believe, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I've done a video on this of why I think robo delivery is a huge market. Now, I do believe that Tesla will be the first one out there on it, but it doesn't put the micro EVs out of the game. In fact, this is probably the precursor to full robo delivery. So I think we're going to see massive adoption by a lot of these services change in retail, restaurant especially. I think food service is the #1 killer spot for this. So we're going to continue to watch these movements in the micro EVs. We'll try to get as many of them on the show as we can, their CEOs, some of their analysts talking about how this market could be moving, because many of these companies are publicly traded. And if you guys have a lead or someone at one of these micro EV companies that you feel we should be talking to, shoot it over to us. Hit me up on Twitter at Paul Barron, or you can shoot an email over to justproducer@revernetworks.com, and we'll definitely get them here on TechPath. Stay tuned right here. We're going to have more amazing AI, EV, and technology news just for you. We'll catch you next time on TechPath.